चैती अच्छी ऐसा बोलो चैती बोला और बोल भी क्या है
If we complete with that first chapter done, no? Or if we start control coordination, so life process is all done. We have already completed with some questions also the last class.
Yes, ma'am.
Process of alpha filtration, reabsorption, all clear.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure nobody has gone through, but I'm skipping for today. I'm not asking you anything today. Today we are going to start the next chapter. Thank you. Next class, from next class until today, 1 day oral, 1 day writing tests. So keep reading. What happened? Confusion क्या है?
एग्जाम में हेरिडिटी आ रहा है।
एग्जाम में हेरिडिटी आ रहा है? कहाँ है एग्जाम?
एंड आर एनवायरनमेंट
एपीजे है ये?
नहीं
Ryan. How many of you from Ryan? कब है एग्जाम? अभी। Rest. बाकी के स्कूल्स में लाइव प्रोसेस के बाद क्या स्टार्ट हुआ?
डाइजेशन वाला पार्ट चालू है
जब तक डाइजेशन तुम लोगों का हुआ नहीं। This is which school you are saying control coordination कितने सारे schools में complete हो रहा है? How many schools you all have started with control coordination journey? Only 3? बाकी सबके schools में live process चल रहा है। Most of you will be having exams. Now tell me very specific. Otherwise, when I start with heredity, minimum 3 to 4 weeks जाएगा heredity complete करने।
मैम मेरा हर वीक में
पहले हमने एनीवेज
मैम
नहीं आओगे।
नहीं आऊंगा बट अगर जिस दिन साइंस का टेस्ट का उस दिन 12 बजे फिर वो पता नहीं किस सबके साथ सिलेबस साइंस की हमारे स्कूल का जो मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द स्कूल से मीनिंग मतलब अभी हर महीने से होगा वीकली टेस्ट सेकंड पेटी फिर दिस इज डॉन बस since science का टेस्ट रहेगा उससे मोस्ट ऑफ द स्कूल के हमारे सिलेबस स्टार्ट हो गया फिर हमारे टेस्ट होगा स्कूल में उसके साथ मैथ्स में इधर
मोस्ट ऑफ द सर का पहला चैप्टर ही
हां फर्स्ट चैप्टर पे आप फिनिश
एक कंट्रोल कोऑर्डिनेशन
अच्छा for you all it is control coordination you लोगों ने लाइव प्रोसेस में haven't started only अच्छा तो for एग्जाम कब है अच्छा हर वेडनेसडे इंग्लिश स्कूल कैसी डॉन बॉस्को के कितने हैं
2
you now you decide I'm ready to sing any song you want
Toss कर दे
ये दोनों जोड़ा टेंशन
in 1 minute you decide and tell me because you all have exams in the third week no but when is the exam because control coordination
पहले वो तो डिसाइड
टॉस करना है
Now, heredity, that also most of the schools after life process, they will start with control coordination, only DPS and they are only dancing out of the blue always. So, heredity, either you say heredity or control coordination, if they have got test every Wednesday, they should be prepared also with the chapter. अब तुम लोग का एग्जाम अभी बाद में है, still time. Maybe by that time we'll finish with control coordination and then I'll start with heredity. Is that okay?
Yes.
So because most of the schools after life process, you all will start with control coordination only. DPS, how many are there from DPS here? No DPS. No? Okay, so not a problem. So now here what I do is I'll start with control coordination once we are done. This is not a very lengthy chapter. अगर सुनोगे समझोगे तो फटाफट खत्म होगा. So let us do. छह pages है. वैसे तो life process में 6 पेज 8 पेज का chapter था. Now when we are talking life process is the lengthiest chapter, 4 major parts to study. ये chapter comparatively easy है, so not to worry. We can start with this. We'll start with control coordination. Boys and boys, we start with control coordination. What are we to study under this chapter? Control coordination. As we start, we are going to talk about the concept of nervous tissues. Control coordination as we start with. Control coordination as we start with. The first thing that we have to understand is nervous tissues. Nervous tissues is something already you have studied in the 9th. क्या याद है nervous tissues? Neurons. What are the parts of the neurons? Dendrites of function. Transport. No. Dendrites का function किसको याद है? Receives the signals, correct? Receives the signals. And axon would conduct the message. So the first thing in this chapter that we learn, control coordination. What is the meaning of control coordination and what are we learning in this chapter is the main type of tissues which help us in coordination are the neurons. How do we define the word neurons? वो 9th standard में पढ़ा है वही मैं पूछ रही हूँ. How do you
Neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system.
maybe अच्छा एक सेकंड में देख लो and answer करो. Now when we are talking about when we talk about the neurons, what is the definition of the word neurons? Write down. Let us start with that. What are neurons? The definition of neurons always to remember structural and functional units of nervous system. Write down the name of the chapter and what are the contents that we start with. Neurons, structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Structural and functional unit of the nervous system. So now, where are neurons present in our body? Everywhere. Neurons are present everywhere. Neurons are present everywhere. So whenever we talk about the neurons, neurons are present everywhere. We'll have to draw the diagram of the neurons and learn the parts and the. Don't cry. We are to draw the diagram of the neurons. Diagram of the neurons तो मुझे draw करने की जरूरत नहीं. You all must be knowing the diagram. Yes or no?
Yes.
Draw the diagram of the neurons and let us label. It should not take more than 5 minutes for all of you. Parts, functions, describe करना है, differences याद रखना है. And then only we learn understanding the major parts and their differences. Let us very quickly draw the diagram of the neuron, label the parts. Instructions for diagram drawing अभी मैं नहीं दे रही, already we have drawn enough diagrams. Now you know how should you draw the diagrams. फिर से पेन टुडे गुरु सेंड यू जाओ घर जाके पेंसिल लेके आओ जाओ very smartly he is drawing the diagram with a pen again all of you will draw diagram with a pencil otherwise आज में सच में बाहर करने वाले एक चैप्टर हो गया I've given you enough instructions I gave you enough warnings अभी warning से काम नहीं चलेगा now once or twice I'll send you outside then you understand all of you will draw neat label diagram this is the easiest diagram in your entire syllabus इस diagram में भी अगर 2 नहीं मिला then worthless इसमें तो 2 complete जो भी marks allotted है 1.5 2 as it is मिलना है without a half mark deduction also fast fast should not take more than 2-3 minutes it's a very simple diagram
nucleus diagram.
Nucleus is this one. Nucleus you can label this. This is nucleus. What are the labels? Dendrites, nucleus, cell body, or cyton, or perikaryon. Remember the terms. Neurolemma, the outer layer. Myelin sheath, axon, node of Ranvier, axon terminal. What is it?
Not ending.
Nerve ending is this one. Axon terminal you can mark anywhere in this entire region is axon terminal. Ending, if you want to write this, you have to write. Any one label is enough. Axon terminal if you write, ending no need. Or ending if you write, terminal no need. That is on the same thing.
हमको mode of रंगी देगा.
Don't even remember such ridiculous names. Ranvier it is. Ranvier. VIER. Girls in the floor, please don't write such names. See that you write the correct words. Chances है. Done. Now chalo, we'll start learning the functions. What are the major parts of the diagram? What are the major parts of the neuron? How did we define the word neuron? Structural functional unit of the nervous system. Always remember the definition. Major parts are which ones? We talk about the dendrites, we talk about the cytosol of the cell body, and the axon. These are the major three parts. To talk about the function, dendrites, when we talk about the major features of the dendrites, what are the major features of the dendrites? You are supposed to remember dendrites are short branched processes. Dendrites are short branched processes. Process here refers to structures, fine thread-like structures को processes बोला जाता है. So we are talking about dendrites are what? These are short branch. Why do we use this word branch? Because they are all in the form of rootlets, no? Constantly dividing. That's why branch processes. What is their function? What are these dendrites doing? They are receiving stimuli. They are receiving stimuli or information. They receive stimulus. What is the meaning of stimulus? They receive information or signals from the external environment. Always to remember this. What is the function of the dendrites? What are the dendrites doing? Dendrites are constantly receiving stimulus or signals from the external environment. Remember, now that I talk about this word stimulus, what is the meaning of this word stimulus? Any particular information from the external environment that can be received by the dendrites is stimulus. Now, what type of information are we to understand? Sound in the form of sound, in the form of light, in the form of touch, prick, pressure, in the form of chemicals. Now that I am talking, are you reacting to that? Yes. Now that I am talking based on what you understand, you are writing something. Based on what I ask you, you are answering me back. Which part of your body is receiving information now? Neurons of which part of the body? Ears. Neurons of the ears are receiving the information, no? Now that I talk about the light, are you able to sense the light, and are you able to sense the light with reference to vision and writing? Yes, that is absolutely because of the neurons of the eye. When you touch something hot, cold, prick, pressure, are you able to understand? Yes, that is because of the neurons of the skin. Whenever, say suppose you are walking down on the road, or say suppose now somebody calling you. When somebody calling you, immediately you show an action. That is because of the neurons of the ear again. You are walking on the road and you happen to step on something and you walk back. That is because of the neurons of your feet, the skin we will consider. So all these examples actually talk about what? The neurons in any part of the body. Now, which are the 5 main parts of the body to consider? The skin, eyes, sense organs, the skin, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the 5 I mentioned: eyes, ears and eyes and nose, tongue, and the skin. 5 parts I mentioned. So these 5 are the sense organs. But to show an action, I'm saying that what is the meaning of the word stimulus? What is the definition of the word stimulus? Stimulus means signals, that is correct. But what is the definition of the word stimulus? The definition of the word stimulus is any agent or a factor that disturbs a neuron. Any agent or a factor that disturbs the neuron, can be considered as a stimulus. Then what are some examples? I can say sound is an example. I can say that light is an example. I can say that touch is an example. I can say chemicals are examples. Yes, these are all stimuli. What is the meaning of stimuli? Plural. Stimulus एक है तो stimulus बोलेंगे, plural है तो stimuli. Did you understand what I am speaking? Whenever we are able to sense, whenever we are able to, the neurons of our body are constantly able to gather the information, no? Whether it is sound or whether it is touch or whether it is light or whether it is heat, cold, etc., constantly receiving information. Which are the primary regions of our body in this regard? The eyes and the ears and the nose and the tongue and the skin. Ultimately, they will receive information and give way to the brain or to the spinal cord. Give the information to the brain or the spinal cord, and then brain and the spinal cord will give the commands to different parts of the body. That is how coordination happens. Then what is the meaning of coordination? I ask you to draw. You are picking up your pencil. I ask you to answer. Are you opening your water bottle? Wrong. Coordination. So now, when we are talking about coordination, matlab kya? You get some command and you react immediately the right way. Accordingly, you react. Usko hum coordination bolenge. That is what is proper coordination. Is not so? So now, which type of cells are helping in this function? The neurons. Which part of the neuron gathering information from the external environment? The dendrites. Now, jab dendrites have received the information, what is the job? I may talk about sound now. For an example, I talk about sound. The dendrites have received the information, then this information is entering the cell body. What is the cell body doing? What is the cell body doing? The cell body will start releasing certain enzymes. These enzymes will run down the axon or change the permeability of the axon membrane. So, with reference to that, I will say, what is the cyton doing? The cyton, job of the cyton is prepares the axon for the conduction or the transfer of the message, for the conduction of information, for the conduction of the information or conduction of the signal, whatever it has received. What did I say just now? I said that these dendrites are receiving. After receiving, where does the message go? The message is going into the cell body. What is this cell body doing? बहुत तरह के chemicals produce करना शुरू हो जाता है. The job of the cell body is always to release a huge number of enzymes, proteins, etc. And these enzymes and proteins are running down the axon. क्योंकि ये जो axon membrane है, this axon membrane permeability change करना है. What is the meaning of the word permeability? उसके movement का जो capacity है. So I'm saying when we are talking about preparing the axon for conduction of the information, basically what it is doing is it is changing the permeability, allowing the axon membrane to show various different types of movement of ions. Try understanding. The message that the dendrites have received is in the form of sound waves. Now that I am talking, your neurons of the ear किस तरह से message receive कर रहा है? In the form of sound waves. But in the axon, how is the message getting transmitted? Not in the form of sound waves, definitely, but in the form of some ions. In the form of some ions. तो ये जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है, जो कन्वर्शन है, ये कहाँ पे होता है? इन द सेल बॉडी. एक मैसेज इज रिसीव्ड इन वन फॉर्म एंड डिलीवर्ड इन अनदर फॉर्म. आया समझ में? तो यहाँ पे कोई वेव्स ट्रांसफर नहीं हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ओनली आयंस ट्रांसफर हो रहा है, and the message has to go to the next neuron. This is what we are going to learn now. So before that, we're going to start understanding that what is the difference between the dendrites and the axon. Third, I have talked about the dendrites. What is the major structure, function? What is the major structure, function of the cell body? Now, one more feature, just extra to remember. Not majorly a part of the syllabus there. Remember, now that we are talking about the cell body, the feature of the cell body is that the cell body very much has a nucleus. Is it the same nucleus like any other cell of the body? Why not? What is peculiar about the nucleus of the neuron is this nucleus cannot carry out cell division. How do we understand that the neurons do not carry out cell division? Because as and when we keep on aging, that's the process, that's the efficiency of hearing and vision and muscle coordination and the speed of coordination. Does that become slower? Yes, it becomes. But the healing property of the skin and all, etc., does it become slower? No, that doesn't become slower. Even now at 5 or 15 or 35 or 55, you suffer from a cut on your skin or parts of the body exterior. 5 साल में भी healing हुआ था, अभी भी होता है. By the time you are 50, तभी भी होगा. Why? Because the skin cells can rapidly undergo the process of cell division and repair. But we are born with millions of neurons. Remember, there is nothing known as neuron cell division or repair. On an average, if I tell you, maybe a person, for an example, say suppose we are born with 100 neurons. By the time we are 5 years, maybe 5 neurons are damaged. So अभी 95 neurons लेके हमें चलना है. तो ये जो 5 neuron damage हो गया, are they going to get replaced? No. By the time we are 10 years, maybe another 10 neurons got damaged. So we are now with another 85. So ये जो replacing for the other parts of the body replace होता है, for the neurons no replacing because they do not undergo the process of cell division. So that is one property to remember. As we keep on aging, the number of neurons keep on decreasing. That's the reason efficiency of the sense organs decreases. Axon, to understand, what are some features of the axon in comparison with the dendrites? Listen carefully, after that I'll give you one question to write. Now that I talk about the axon, what are some features to remember? Axon is a single, long, unbranched process. It is a single, long, unbranched process. For every single neuron, there is only one single. For every single neuron, there is only one single axon. Single, long, unbranched process. Unbranched process, Single, long, unbranched process. Now, function. What is the function you will write for the axon? What is the function you should write? Function always you should write carrying the information further. So we will write conduction of impulse. What is the meaning of stimulus? I told you. Stimulus मतलब कोई भी तरह का information, the signals that the neurons can receive. इसको बोलेंगे? No. उसको बोलेंगे stimulus. Now, what is the definition of the word impulse? What is impulse? The wave of information. What is impulse? The wave of information that is carried all over. So now that I understand, what is this dendrite doing? Receiving the sound waves. Receiving the sound waves. These sound waves will be carried over. So this is stimulus. Receiving, this is stimulus. And what is this? This is impulse. Is the form of the stimulus and the impulse the same? No, alag-alag hota hai. In the form of some vibrations or waves. And this is majorly in the form of ions. Movement of ions. Only this for the time being, try understanding. I am talking about what is the job of the axon. It carries messages further. Axon कहाँ से कहाँ message transfer करता है from the cell body to the next neuron. After this, if you see the chain of neurons that we have in our body, click this one. The chain of neurons that we have in our body. Every part of our body has got chain of neurons like this. The message from here has to go all throughout the axon and then get delivered to the next neuron. From this next neuron, the message has to get transferred and get delivered to the third neuron. Then the fourth, then the fifth. That is how the chain of neurons work in our body. All over, if I talk about all over the body, this type of chains are in hundreds in our body.
You said that the message transferred in the form of impulse, then it goes to the second neuron. Does it goes in the form of
When it goes to the second neuron, now this is my second neuron there, this is the cyton, and this is the dendrites. So here they will start producing, at this end, they are going to learn this. At this end, when the message yahan tak aa gaya, after that they will start releasing certain special chemicals. This will act as a stimulus for the next neuron. We learn that process now. So first of all, try understanding. This is just the general concept that we have studied in the time that I am revising again. I am saying this is the basic structure of the neuron. Major parts, dendrites, axon. We'll write here one question. Find out how many differences I had mentioned. 1, 2, 3. Right. Major differences to write down. Make one table. Make one table. Write 3 differences between axon and dendrites. Write 3 differences between axon and dendrites. We will pick up these points to write down. Write 3 major differences. 3 major differences between axon and dendrites. Same points. Remember not to make any mistake. This is very easy to remember. What is the first point you will write? Dendrites are short processes. Axon is a single long process. Likho, apne aap likho. Learn how to frame answers. This is all there on the board right now. Number 2 क्या लिख रहा है? Number 2 branched है. Dendrites are branched. Axon unbranched लिखो. This is the second part. Second difference ये है. This is a common question which you get in your paper always. Differences between dendrites and axon. What is meant by stimulus? What is impulse? Third point, लिखो about the function. If it is dendrite, what is the function that you are writing? Dendrites, the function is this one. Receive stimulus. Function for the axon, you will write conduction of impulse. Impulse हमेशा ये याद रखना है. If it is a standing pond, if it is a standing lake, how does ripple spread out? Exactly same like that. The nervous impulses spread very, very gradually, very, very uniform. That is how the nervous impulses spread. Not very random, not with a jerk. Always spread out evenly, like the ripples in a pond, in a lake. It is. Okay, so conduction of the impulse. Done. All of you finished with that? 3 major differences to write between the dendrites and the axon. Now we start understanding about this one, the myelin sheath. Now here, after the concept of dendrites and axon, okay, something more I mentioned here is about the neurolemma. I had mentioned the neurolemma is only a protective layer. The neurolemma is just a protective layer. Protection is its function, nothing else. It's a membranous cover. Major role is about the myelin sheath now. The major role is about the myelin sheath. What is this myelin sheath made up of? The myelin sheath is a fatty deposit. Myelin sheath is a fatty deposit. What is its job? What is this myelin sheath doing? It acts as an insulator. It acts as an insulator. It acts as an insulator and prevents. Acts as an insulator and prevents the loss of impulses. Insulator, what is the meaning? What is the meaning of insulator? does not allow pass through. That can be heat, that can be ions, that can be charges, etc., etc. So now that we are talking about insulator, here we are understanding because of these fatty deposits around the axon, the impulses which is supposed to pass through does not get lost. अब अगर ये myelin sheath नहीं होता, then it was possible that these impulses are getting lost. These impulses are getting lost. So now, because the impulses does not get lost, whatever our dendrites receive can pass down till here in full efficiency. अगर full efficiency में pass down होगा, then the reaction is prompt. Full efficiency में pass down नहीं होगा, then reaction would be slower. You are walking down on the road and there's a vehicle honking the horn there. The messages are lost. If the messages are lost, you are able to receive the message, but are you able to immediately walk, run, take the side of the road? Nahi. Because the messages are lost on the way. So the messages are not received in full efficiency, but received after a loss. A huge loss of messages has happened. When there is a loss of message, how do we understand that the neurons are damaged or broken down or the continuity is lost? When the messages are not perfectly transmitted and the action is not very prompt and right. Action has to be very prompt and right. The response has to be very prompt and right. No, that gives us a clear idea that the message transmission is very prompt. So this is what you should always remember. That what is the job of this myelin sheath? The job of this myelin sheath is it prevents the loss of the messages so that the message transmission is in its efficient way, maximally transmitted, very efficiently it is transmitted. So that's why we write it is acting as an insulator. Now, how does the process of message transmission happen? We are going to understand a particular process. How does message transmission happen? Now, if I have to say that how does message transmission happen, we are going to understand. Now that the dendrites have received the message or the signal, the message transmission will start from here. That's the start of the axon, right? This is the start of the axon. The message transmission starts from here. यहाँ से यहाँ तक it will happen in a particular format. And then यहाँ से यहाँ तक it will happen in a particular format. So now, from here to here, the message transmission is in one particular format. And what is this form of message transmission? Is this particular message transmission is known as electrical transmission, which is in the form of ions. I already had written earlier, no, sodium, potassium. It is always in the form of ions. And from here to here to the next neuron, it is in the form of chemicals. So how is the transmission of ions? How is the transmission of impulse? So we write transmission of impulse in human or the neurons is electrochemical. What is the meaning of electrochemical nerve impulse transmission? Electrochemical, electrical in this part of the axon, and axon terminals say to the next neuron, it is in the form of chemicals. We are going to learn how does this process happen. Now, to understand this, we have to talk about certain stages of the axon. Try understanding certain words. I am talking about यहाँ पे message transmission. How does it happen? Stimulus received by the dendrites. Take any example, sound है, light है, anything. Now I am talking about any particular example. For an example, we take sound. Received by the dendrites, message यहाँ तक आ चुका है. By the time the message has reached the cytosol, the messages have to start running down the axon. But now that they run down, it is not in the form of sound waves, but it is in the form of ions. So before we start understanding, we have to talk about a part of the axon like this. What am I drawing? I am drawing a axon. I am drawing this entire axon there. This entire axon, I am saying this has not yet started conducting the message. अभी भी conduction शुरू नहीं हुआ है. तो जब conduction शुरू नहीं हुआ, is it possible that in our body the neurons are not conducting any message at one particular period of time? We feel that the conduction is continuous, but actually after one complete cycle of conduction, the neurons take a very short millisecond period of rest. Millisecond, एक सेकंड से भी बहुत छोटा एक period. So that is the basic concept to understand. Does our neurons ever take rest? Yes, they do. For us, it seems it's a continuous process, but neurons do take a period of rest. So when the neurons are taking a period of rest, the axon is not conducting any message. What will we term this stage as? We will term this stage as the resting state of the neuron. So resting state में axon का feature क्या रहता है? At this resting state, what is present inside and outside the axon? And clearly we are only talking about ions here. Oh, we are only talking about ions here. अब जब stimulus अभी तक आया नहीं है, then what is the condition of the axon membrane? The axon membrane is positively charged on the outside. Say otherwise, the outside of the axon membrane is positively charged. The inside of the axon membrane is negatively charged. So positive charge किस लिए? Because of high sodium concentration. Negative charge किस लिए? Because of potassium and chlorides. Overall charge negative होता है. Though I am talking about potassium also, there are positively charged ions also. We are not talking about all the composition here, like the platinol. Roughly to understand, overall charge axon के अंदर negative होता है, outside positive. What is this state of the neuron known as, or axon known as resting state? Resting state में what happens? The axon is not conducting any message. अब जब stimulus आया, now that there is a stimulus, now next what? The cytosol will start running down some proteins, and the permeability of the axon membrane will all change. Up, there will be a change in the axon membrane. What will happen to this axon membrane? The axon membrane will start conducting the message. Up, stimulus आया already from the cyton. Message has come from the cyton. Now what should happen? The conduction starts. How do we understand the conduction starts? A whole lot of disturbance happens in the axon. How are we going to show this? A part of the axon will show the movement of the ions. कैसे? The positively charged sodium will start entering inside, and the negatively charged potassium chlorides will start moving outside. Positively charged sodium will enter inside, negatively charged ions outside. Is this happening all throughout the axon at one time? नहीं, एक छोटा सा region में ही हो रहा है first. The rest of the axon yet to conduct the message. Am I clear? नहीं समझ में आ रहा है? You will have to ask and clarify. Otherwise, I take for granted that you are understanding. Wherever there is a doubt, you'll have to clarify. So I said, at the start, when the axon has just completed, how do you all behave? You complete writing 2 sentences and after that you want a break. Yes or no? So exactly the neurons, of course not that lazy like you, the neurons will just conduct one particular message and take millisecond period का rest लेता है, when it will re-establish all its ions and then again ready for the next. It is something like that. So when the neuron is re-establishing, उसको क्या बोलेंगे? Resting state. अब immediately एक stimulus आया. Now there is a stimulus now. Now there is a message information है. This information is running down the axon. So immediately what happens? In one part of the axon, there is a disturbance of ions. What will we call this particular state? This is known as the depolarized state. This is known as depolarized state. What is the meaning of depolarized? एक part of axon में movement of ions शुरू हो गया है. Conduction of impulse शुरू हो गया है. That is the meaning. Depolarized. But I say depolarization पूरा axon, the entire axon will not go for depolarization at the same time. It is only a small part of the axon and step by step होता है the process. So what is about the rest of the axon? The rest of the axon is yet to conduct the message. Rest of the axon यही same इसी तरह से रहता है. Is this clear? Is this clear? The axon was not conducting any message, so at the resting state, the outside of the axon is positively charged, inside of the axon is negatively charged. जैसे ही message आया, जैसे ही stimulus आई, now what will happen? A part of the axon will show the difference. Difference meaning movement of ions in and out. This is what we are talking about. Transmission of the impulse has started. This is what we are talking about. Impulse transmission. Impulse transmission started. Clear? But this impulse will not travel the entire length of the axon at one go, but it leaves in steps, one after the other. So one part में difference हुआ, the rest of the axon is yet to carry or conduct the message. But अब जब यहाँ पे difference हुआ, this will bring about a disturbance in the next. This disturbance will not remain stagnant. अब जब यहाँ पे disturbance हुआ, this will keep on flowing further. Then what will be the condition of the next stage of the axon? In the next stage of the axon, of this particular region is becoming disturbed. पहले ये region disturbed था. Now this part of the axon is becoming disturbed. But how should I show the disturbance? How should I show the disturbance? Positive ions will always enter inside and the negative ions outside. The positive ions go inside and the negative come outside. This is what is impulse transmission. Positive meaning we are majorly understanding the movement of the sodium potassium chloride ions in and out of the axon. Now this particular region is depolarized, but this is a condition of the axon where एक section तो depolarized है. What about the next region? Yet to conduct the message. तो yet to conduct the message को हम कैसे designate करेंगे? Outside positive, inside negative. Outside positive, inside negative. Clear है? What about this region? The message has already gone from here to here. So the previous region will try re-establishing and coming back to normal again. So अब अगर coming back to normal है, then what is happening? Coming back to normal, if I have to show, I will show that these positive charges again come back. The negative charges again inside. The positive charges again outside and the negative charges again inside. Re-establishing, right? ये region re-establishing like before. This is disturbed. This is yet to be disturbed. इस particular stage को बोलेंगे. This is known as repolarized state of the axon. Repolarized state. So whenever we are talking about nerve impulse conduction, whenever we talk about nerve impulse conduction में my operator is sleeping. ये process समझना पड़ेगा. I know most of you are not following, but समझना पड़ेगा. So now when we are talking about this, for the entire process of nerve impulse conduction, कौन से 3 steps है? Resting, depolarizing. Resting में the axon is not conducting any message. outer membrane positively charged, inner membrane or inner region negatively charged. जैसे ही conduction start हुआ, conduction will always happen step by step, region by region होता है. And the first region, when you show that conduction has started, what are you supposed to show? The disturbance of the ions have happened. Positively charged ions inside, negatively charged ions outside. तो ये जो disturbance हुआ, this will now activate or disturb the next region. So this will now go on. This is how it goes on. तो अब जब ये second region को disturb किया, the previous region will re-establish. Again come back to normal because the wave is now moving this way, no? The wave is moving this way. The wave is moving this way now, and the message transmission has to complete. The wave is moving this way. The message transmission is happening this way. So this is re-established, this is disturbed, and this is yet to be disturbed. This state of the neuron, what is this state of the neuron? Known as repolarized state. This particular state of the neuron is known as repolarized. Both of you, darling, sweetheart, कुछ भी नहीं समझ रहे. If you are not listening to me, listen करके भी, you will not understand at one go. And when you are not listening, I'm just like a flash happening in front of your eyes, blabbering something. कुछ तो बोलती जा रही है, ये क्या बोल रही है कुछ नहीं पता. So now, these are the three basic stages that I talk about. In this form, the message transmission happens till where? Till here. यही form में sodium, potassium chloride, in and out, in and out, in and out, and the message transmission is happening till here. This mode of nerve impulse transmission को क्या बोलेंगे? Electrical transmission. This mode of nerve impulse transmission को क्या बोलेंगे? This is known as electrical transmission. It is almost compared with the charges in the electrical wires. Every time the charges move in and out, in and out, in and out, then that is how we are talking about this. But now, by the time the messages have come down till here, now next one. By the time the messages have come down here, let me now draw this particular structure little bit in a magnified manner. Put this. Now that we are talking about the axon terminals, let me now talk about one of these structures here. Axon terminals. ये जो axon terminal है, this axon terminal is also known as a axon knob. इसको axon knob भी बोला जाता है. Axon terminal. The messages has come down here. What did we learn? What is the concept of electrical transmission of messages? The movement of the sodium and the potassium and the chlorides in and out. तो जब यहाँ तक message transmission हो चुका है, right now in this region, what is happening? Formation of chemical droplets. Formation of chemical droplets start taking place, and these chemical droplets are gathering in these small vesicles. What are these vesicles? Something like a bubble-like structure. तो काफी सारे इस तरह के bubble-like structure बन जाता है, and now special chemical droplets are inside. What are these chemical droplets known as? These chemical droplets are known as neurotransmitters. These are known as neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitter के एक example बताओ. हाँ, एक chapter खत्म हो गया ना स्कूल में? ये part नहीं हुआ? तुमने सुना अच्छी तरह से? Example of neurotransmitter. Example of इस तरह के chemical droplets सब develop and accumulate हो जाता है where at the axon knobs. Now these chemical droplets are known as neurotransmitter. एक ही example तुमको याद रखना है. What is this example? This example is known as acetylcholine. एसिटाइल कोलिन, एक ही एग्जांपल याद रखना है। और वैसे तो हमारे बॉडी में इस तरह के बहुत सारे केमिकल्स हैं। अच्छा है ना नाम? एसिटाइल कोलिन क्या है, डाउट क्या है? वो तुम्हारा स्कूल का प्रॉब्लम है। आई एम गोइंग बाय द बोर्ड सिलेबस। बोर्ड में जो सिलेबस है तुमको पढ़ना है। You have to study this. This will be definitely this type of this questions will हमारे टेस्ट में पूछा जाएगा this type. Will be asked. What will you write? Blank छोड़ना है। याद रखना, भले अपना नाम भूल जाओ चलेगा। You have to remember this words. Neurotransmitter. What are these special chemical substances known as? These special chemical substances are known as neurotransmitters. Observe the next neuron. I said sound. The first neuron can receive the sound. पर अभी जो ये दूसरा न्यूरॉन है, how will this next neuron be excited? This next neuron will be excited only when these neurons. Now I said ये जो neurotransmitters है, these neurotransmitters will come in contact with the dendrites of the next neuron. So for the next neuron inside the body, what is acting as a stimulus? The sound or these chemicals? These chemicals.
मैम अगर एक बीच का न्यूरॉन डैमेज होगा या फिर मर गया होगा,
बीच का एक रोड अगर ब्लॉक है तो हम दूसरा रोड लेते हैं ना जाने के लिए. In our body there are hundreds and hundreds of bypasses. So एक दो न्यूरॉन डैमेज होता है, so there's no problem. Our body takes so many other bypasses to perform the function. So remember the job. What is this? This method of nerve impulse transmission is known as chemical transmission. Remember. रुको जाओ मत अभी. Now when we are talking about the nerve impulse transmission, he's also in a hurry. Now here to here, what is the method of nerve impulse transmission known as? Electrical. याद रखो. And at the axon terminus, what is it known as? Chemical. What is the method of nerve impulse transmission in our neurons? Electrochemical. ये अगले क्लास में मैं पूछने वाली. ये याद रखना. And draw, all of you should draw, complete the diagram of the neuron. हाँ, please. Thank you.